I can't even. Every day, more and more people are regretting their decision to vote for Biden. Here's just a little snippet as to why. There was an attack at the Kabul airport that killed 13 U.S. service members and at least 90 Afghans. Turns out, though, that the Biden administration had ample time to prepare for this and get our people out, and they just didn't. From the Gateway Pundit, new text messages reveal 2nd Battalion 1st Marines were given a countdown before Kabul airport bombing. It started about 2 hours out, and now they are being silenced. The U.S. military knew there was going to be an attack at the Kabul airport last week. On Wednesday, August 25th, the U.S. State Department issued a warning to U.S. nationals to avoid traveling to the Hamid Karzai Airport in Kabul, Afghanistan. The U.S. told those waiting outside to leave immediately. On Thursday, August 26th, a suicide bomber blew himself up near the Abbey Gate in the Kabul airport, killing 13 Americans, 11 U.S. Marines, a Navy hospitalman, and an Army staff sergeant. Rest in peace to all the folks here. Following the attack, one Marine wrote a text message to the raid team. The Marine who was on the scene disclosed there was a countdown before the suicide bomber detonated himself. The Taliban allowed the bomber to get through the perimeter. The Marines did not allow the bomber to get through the inside perimeter. He was outside the gate when he detonated his explosive vest by the crowded Abbey Gate at the Kabul airport. According to our source, there were also reports of Marines who saw the Taliban laughing after the deadly blast. On Friday, we spoke with Chaz, the CEO of the raid team company. Chaz told us he was a member of the 2nd Battalion 1st Marines for over 8 years. The current unit was comprised of young men. Chaz has agreed to speak to us more on Sunday following the vigil for the men and women this weekend. Chaz is also interested in helping those who suffer from mental health issues, especially those coming back from war. We took screen grabs from the Instagram account in case the account is flagged, censored, or deleted by far left tech giants. There was a countdown from a Marine at the scene. Yeah, it happened an hour after the last radio transmission about it. They said in 10 minutes, an IED is set to go off. 2 minutes, an IED is set to go off. At 16:27, an IED is going to go off. Then at 17:30, something finally went off. And in an utter nightmarish clown show move, Joe Biden responded to the killing of our servicemen and women by launching a drone strike that killed a whole bunch of children and their parents. Yes, there's an Afghan journalist. Family blown up by Joe Biden's missile strike, had special visas, and were about to leave Afghanistan. Afghan reporter Ali Latifi joined Yalda Hakim at the BBC to discuss the recent missile strike attack by Joe Biden that killed an Afghan family, including several children in Kabul. According to Latifi, the family killed on Sunday by a U.S. drone strike had special immigrant visas, SIVSs, to leave for the U.S. and were about to leave Afghanistan. The family, including 7 children, were killed in the missile strike. The youngest victim was 2 years old. And here are images from the funeral. Of course, this shouldn't be any kind of surprise. This is nothing more than a continuation of the Obama-Biden drone strike program, which killed mostly innocent people. This article from The Intercept here. Strikes often kill many more than the intended target. And this is just talking about how during Operation Haymaker, they show that between January 2012 and February of 2013, U.S. Special Operations airstrikes killed more than 200 people. Of those, only 35 were the intended targets. During one 5-month period of the operation, according to the documents, nearly 90% of the people killed in airstrikes were not the intended targets. Perhaps we'd have fewer situations like that occurring if the top brass were more focused on fighting the enemy versus making ROTC cadets wear high heels so that they can relate to women being sexually assaulted, which, by the way, wearing high heels has nothing to do with relating to women being sexually assaulted. Now, this article is from 2015, but I remember who was in the White House in 2015. And so this article just goes to show that this wokeness problem isn't new. It's been going on for a while. Also, the Army Times reported on this. Soldiers in high heels draw online outburst. You see, Obama did a great job at getting rid of and firing generals who weren't yes men, like General Flynn. General Flynn kept telling Obama that the situation in the Middle East was not this like happy, cheery, wonderful thing that Obama wanted him to say to him. He wanted him to say, oh, this is a great success and I'm doing great. And he was like, no, this is what's really going on. The enemy is much stronger than how you're acting like they are. And then this is what you get at the end of the day. You have a bunch of people who are left at the top who care more about their own personal careers, more about just telling whoever is in charge, it's more important for them to tell them what they want to hear than what they need to hear. So we have troops running around in high heels while people are worried about weird woke stuff and putting the troops in heels. Actual real women who need help are suffering and dying and being executed while the top brass is basically just worried about virtue signaling. But yes, we have the Taliban knocked on her door 3 times. The 4th time, they killed her. Basically a story of a mother, and the Taliban demanded that she cook for them. And she told them, we're poor, we can't afford to cook for up to 15 fighters. It's a little section from the article here. My mother told them, I'm poor. How can I cook for you? The Taliban started beating her. My mother collapsed. They hit her with their guns, AK-47s. The daughter yelled at the fighters to stop. They paused for a moment before throwing a grenade into the next room and fleeing as the flames spread. The mother of 4 died from the beating. That was from August 18th. This is from August 21st. Afghanistan reports of torture and killing contradict the Taliban's promises. Fighters tortured men to death, say witnesses, and relative of journalist killed. What? You mean the Taliban broke its promise not to kill people? Wow. Who could have seen that coming? Evidence of Taliban killings, detentions, and intimidation is emerging across Afghanistan, ominously contradicting the hardline Islamist group's promise earlier this week not to take revenge against its opponents. With reports of the Taliban going door to door, searching for people who worked with the former Afghan government or Western countries, claims have also emerged of Taliban fighters torturing and killing members of an ethnic minority in Afghanistan after overrunning their village last month. Okay, so once again, yes, this is from Saturday, August 21st. We knew well in advance that the Taliban was specifically targeting people who were our allies, even though they promised not to. So why then on the 26th is Politico reporting that America gave the Taliban a hit list of our American citizens and allies? Exclusive. U.S. officials provided the Taliban with names of Americans, Afghan allies to evacuate. The White House contends that limited information sharing with the Taliban is saving lives. Critics argue it's putting Afghan allies in harm's way. U.S. officials in Kabul gave the Taliban a list of American citizens, green card holders, and Afghan allies to grant entry into the militant-controlled outer perimeter of the city's airport, a choice that's prompted outrage behind the scenes from lawmakers and military officials. The move, detailed by Politico to 3 U.S. and congressional officials, was designed to expedite the evacuation of tens of thousands of people from Afghanistan as the chaos erupted in Afghanistan's capital city last week after the Taliban seized control of the country. It also came as the Biden administration has been relying on the Taliban for security outside the airport. And yes, they really were that stupid. They really were that stupid. They were actually relying on the Taliban for security. Since the fall of Kabul in mid-August, nearly 100,000 people have been evacuated, most of whom had to pass through the Taliban's many checkpoints. But the decision to provide specific names to the Taliban, which has a history of brutally murdering Afghans who collaborated with the U.S. and other coalition forces during the conflict, has angered lawmakers and military officials. Basically, they just put all those Afghans on a kill list, said one defense official who, like others, spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss a sensitive topic. It's just appalling and shocking, and it makes you feel unclean. So if you're wondering if they use that list to kill Americans or our allies, I'm going to go with probably yes, because look at this here. Of course, Taliban soldiers are reportedly going door to door and executing people. They haven't stopped killing. So I don't know. What do you think? You think they're using the list? You think it's a kill list? Because this is from September 1st, after the U.S. troops have left. This is very serious. This is not a joke. Here's something from Lara Logan from senior U.S. source. House-to-house executions in Kabul following the U.S. military departure. There are no words for what this administration has done to all of us, Afghan and American. And pulling out and leaving tons of Americans behind wasn't enough for Biden. We also had to gift the Taliban around $20 billion worth of military equipment, talking night vision goggles. We're talking helicopters, Humvees, guns, ammunition. Update. The Taliban now has more Black Hawk helicopters than 85% of the countries in the world. So Obama 2.0. In a Capitol Hill press conference on Tuesday, Indiana Representative Jim Banks revealed that the Taliban now has more Black Hawk helicopters than 85% of the countries on Earth. The Gateway pundit reported on Sunday Joe Biden left 300 times more guns than those passed to the Mexican cartels in Obama's Fast and Furious program. The Taliban have been posting videos of pallets of weapons and stacks of $100 bills that they seized. Representative Jim Banks said he has also just learned the Taliban is in possession of biometric devices with biographical data of Afghans who helped Americans and other high-tech military equipment. We now know that due to the negligence of this administration, the Taliban now has access to over $85 billion worth of American military equipment. That includes 75,000 vehicles, over 200 airplanes and helicopters, over 600,000 small arms and light weapons. The Taliban now has more Black Hawk helicopters than 85% of the countries in the world, but they don't just have weapons. They also have night vision goggles, body armor, medical supplies, and unbelievably, unfathomably, to me and so many others, is that the Taliban now has biometric devices which have the fingerprints, eye scans, and biographical information of the Afghans who helped us over the last 20 years. And here's what we just learned again in the briefing that we just walked out of, is this administration still has no plan to get its military equipment or these supplies back. It's Obama 2.0. America's enemies are armed to the teeth and funded to the max. Under Trump, ISIS was defeated. America is last. Now, I'd like to point out here this number, this $85 billion number. I do not believe that's correct. I think the $85 billion number comes from the total amount of money that was spent in Afghanistan over these 20 years. So not all of it went to military equipment. I believe the amount that went to the military equipment is closer to 20 billion, but there are really no acceptable amounts of equipment. Like, oh, it's only 20 billion instead of 80 billion in military equipment and weapons that are going to be used to kill our own people that went to the enemy. Like that doesn't make anybody feel better. But you know what? Hey, I think maybe, just maybe, I would like to try to get some better numbers. Maybe I can get like an exact number so we can share nothing but like the truest of information. So let me see if I can find what the actual numbers for the equipment that have been lost are. Look, no. Biden administration erased Afghan weapons report from federal websites. So no, you don't need to know. We're not going to give you the real information, though. We're going to do our best to keep that hidden. Why in the world would we need an accurate accounting of weapons and munitions that went to the enemy? I mean, it's not like this is ever going to come back to bite us in the butt. I mean, the Taliban would never use our own weapons against us, right? Clearly, there's no need to try to account for exactly how much money and resources and things of that nature went to them. Of course, the Taliban celebrated their wonderful gift that they received from Joe Biden by throwing a victory parade featuring them showing off all of the American equipment that they got.
The Taliban celebrating the spoils of victory with a parade in Kandahar, the city where the group originated. Taliban fighters showing off dozens of American-made armored vehicles and weapons that they seized after Afghan forces fled. This video, posted on social media and not independently confirmed by CNN, I must add, shows fighters triumphantly rolling through the streets. Well, Taliban soldiers have been inspecting US military helicopters and other equipment left damaged at Kabul airport.
Notice that CNN couldn't help but to imply that all of the equipment that was left behind was actually damaged equipment. Yeah, it's so damaged that the Taliban are flying around in our helicopters and driving around in our Humvees and using that equipment to go kill our allies and eventually us, because they have to try to play down just how catastrophic this is. They can't, of course, try to paint this in the actual light that it should be painted in. Even if all the equipment was damaged, you're still giving them parts that they could use to repair other vehicles. Absolutely no way on God's green earth would this have occurred under President Trump. He wouldn't have left all this equipment behind, or the people, or the American citizens, or our allies. This has nothing to do with Trump's plan whatsoever. This is Biden putting a photo up for September 11th before the safety and security of our men and women in uniform, our citizens, and our allies. And where's Kamala? Has anyone seen Kamala? Because all she can seem to do is hide from everything that's going on and try to act like she's not part of this administration. She hid from the border, now she's hiding from Afghanistan. She thinks if she just stays out of sight long enough that everyone will forget that she's also responsible for this mess. And while they were having parades, they were also shipping U.S. military equipment to their buddies in Iran. The Biden effect: U.S. military vehicles left by Joe Biden and captured by the Taliban spotted inside Iran. Biden supplied the Taliban terrorist organization and their Islamicist accomplices with billions of dollars worth of U.S. armaments. Rather than destroying the equipment before leaving the country, Joe Biden decided to leave the nearly $85 billion worth of U.S. military equipment to the Taliban. Once again, I think that figure is closer to 20. This is the overall funding. So what they were able to get is going to be much less than the overall funding. And now this, the Taliban was filmed this week moving captured U.S. military vehicles to Iran, thanks to Joe Biden and the woke U.S. generals. Tweet here. We have another one here. Several U.S. military armored vehicles, which allegedly belonged to the Afghan army before the Taliban took over control of the country, were spotted in Iran. Images shared on social media show. A more complete list was created with public information and help from other intelligence sources. The list does not include all kinds of non-lethal equipment, everything from MREs, medical equipment, and even energy drinks. This article is also doing a really interesting breakdown here of the equipment, how much things cost, because it is really going to be hard to get accurate numbers for what's going on when they're trying to scrub this from the internet. With screw ups so bad on every level that it leaves people questioning whether or not this is intentional. But with the stuff being this bad at this level, you would think, I don't know, maybe someone would resign, maybe, possibly. No, actually, the only person who has lost their job over this is Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller, and his great crime was asking for accountability. From Politico, Marine officer relieved of duty after calling out senior leaders about Afghanistan. I am willing to throw it all away to say to my senior leaders, I demand accountability, Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller said in a video message. He also posted on Facebook that he has been relieved for cause based on lack of trust and confidence as of 14:30 today. In a roughly 5-minute video posted Thursday, Scheller upbraided military brass over the way the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan has been carried out and called for them to take ownership for the chaotic events of the past few weeks. Did any of you throw your rank on the table and say, hey, it's a bad idea to evacuate Bagram Airfield, a strategic air base, before we evacuate everyone? Scheller in uniform said in a video, did anyone do that? And when you didn't think to do that, did anyone raise their hand and say, we completely messed this up? The video, which took off on social media within military circles, was an unusual sign of public dissent and frustration within the ranks. Scheller said that potentially all those people did die in vain if senior military leaders are not held to account. Without that, the higher military ranks are not holding up their end of the bargain, he said. I've been fighting for 17 years. I'm willing to throw it all away to say to my senior leaders, I demand accountability. Of course, though, for his courage and bravery, Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller is expecting to be jailed. And don't expect a lot of people from that administration to care. Biden slammed for appearing to look at his watch during ceremony for dead Marines. Of course, if you have a problem with the administration basically intentionally letting your son die, if you have a problem with that, don't worry. Big tech is here to stomp all over the freedom of speech of Gold Star families. Instagram takes down Gold Star mother's account after she attacks POS Biden. Was this part of their partner status program with the Democrats? Shayna Chappelle is the mother of slain U.S. Marine Lance Corporal Kareem Nikui. Lance Nikui was killed last week when a suicide bomber was allowed into the inner perimeter of the Kabul airport and blew himself up, killing 13 American servicemen and women and over 100 Afghans. So Shayna was angry at Biden and wrote about it on Instagram. And for this, she had her account deleted by the tech giant. No dissidence against the regime is allowed. Instagram later reinstated her account saying it was removed in error. Of course, they are lying. This only happens to conservatives. This is the post that made Instagram disable my account. As soon as I posted about what happened to my son, Instagram started pulling up my posts from months ago and sending me notifications that if I kept posting stuff like that, they would disable my account. Posts from months ago. But the real reason they disabled my account is because of this post, and Facebook will come after me next. Of course, you can't see it. And even though they are coming for the Gold Star families who are suffering, a lot of them are fighting back. They are still speaking out.
We left them behind. Mark, you want to comment on the watch incident? Did you notice the same thing?
Yes, I did. I actually leaned into my son's mother's ear and I said, I swear to God, if he checks his watch one more time, and that was only probably 4 times in, I couldn't look at him anymore after that. just considering especially the time and why we were there. It was, I found to be the most disrespectful thing I've ever seen.
And this is a really long clip, but I'm going to break it up and just do some snippets from it. This is mother of U.S. Marine Riley McCullum, who died in the Kabul bombing.
Go ahead.
My son was one of the Marines that died yesterday. 20 years and 6 months old, getting ready to come home from freaking Jordan to be with his wife to watch the birth of his son. And that feckless, dementia-ridden piece of crap just sent my son to die. I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning to Marines at my door telling me my son was dead. I never thought in a million years he would die for nothing, because a feckless, dementia-ridden piece of crap decided he wanted a photo op on September 11th. That's what kills me. I wanted my son to represent our country, to fight for my country, but I never thought that a feckless piece of crap would send him to his death and smirk on television while he's talking about people dying with his nasty smirk. The dementia-ridden piece of crap needs to be removed from office. It never would have happened under Trump. And I'm pacing, just so you know, I'm out of breath because I'm pacing. These people cannot even acknowledge the fact that they just killed my son for nothing, for an ill-managed debacle of a freaking withdrawal from a country that we had total control of. That's what gets me. How much more horrific can it get than to know that your son died for nothing? I can't cry because I'm too mad to cry, which is so sad that I can't cry for my son right now. I'm just too mad to cry for my son right now. But when I see that baby in a month, when his baby is born, I'm sure I'll break down and cry. But right now I cannot afford to cry. I've got to be strong. His wife is in freaking Oceanside, California right now. And I need to be strong for her. And I'm going to do that. And I'm not going to cry, because if I start crying, I'm not going to stop. So I'm just going to stay pissed off. And that's the only way I'm going to be able to do this. For every Democrat who cheated or voted for Biden, that left my son in harm's way and allowed this dementia-ridden piece of crap who was a treasonous man who just got into office because he was running out of funds for his family. You did this to my son. Every Democrat that's listening, you did this to my son to prop up a disgusting human being.
That was really tough to listen to. But that anger, that sentiment is spreading. I have a Florida Dyna owner who posts a sign telling Biden backers to eat elsewhere. If you voted for and continue to support and stand behind the worthless, inept, and corrupt administration currently inhabiting the White House that is complicit in the death of our servicemen and women in Afghanistan, please take your business elsewhere. God bless America and God bless our soldiers. And looks like she is doing really well with this, because she has sold out of food, because this is a restaurant in Florida. So that's Trump country. But the clown show is not over yet. To add insult to injury, law enforcement today, disgraceful. Pelosi blocks the names of the 13 service members murdered in Afghanistan from being read. More than 30 House Republicans met on the House floor on Tuesday for a moment of silence in honor of the fallen service members. As the moment ended, Republicans tried to be recognized on the floor and read the names and discuss pending legislation. But the chairman gavelled out without recognizing the members. As the chairman gavelled, one Republican member shouted, "How can you not read the names?" Another shouted, "Turn your back on our country." Congressman Carol A. Jimenez sent out a tweet Monday asking how badly Nancy Pelosi and Democrats want to cover up Biden debacle in Afghanistan. How badly do Nancy Pelosi and House Democrats want to cover up this Afghanistan debacle? They just blocked members of Congress from reading the names of the service members who sacrificed their lives in Afghanistan last week. Don't you think our military deserves better? It's particularly funny that Pelosi refused to have the names of our military members who passed away serving our country, refused to allow their names to be read, when they had Officer Brian Sicknick laying an honor in the rotunda, because that was part of their false narrative that they tried to push, where they said that Trump supporters beat Officer Sicknick to death with a fire extinguisher, which of course did not happen at all. He had only been pepper sprayed. And then later, after the mostly peaceful protest was over, he passed away because he had a blood clot and a stroke. And it was tragic, but he gets honors. I'm not saying that he shouldn't have been honored, but he gets that because because it drives their political agenda. But these folks here can't even have their names read, but that's okay. I will read their names since they can't even have that. Law enforcement today honors these fallen heroes: 11 Marines, 1 soldier, and 1 sailor. Marine Corps Lance Corporal David Espinoza, 20 of Rio Bravo. Marine Corps Sergeant Nicole Gee, 23 of Roseville, California. Marine Corps Staff Sergeant Darren Taylor Hoover, 31 of Utah. Army Staff Sergeant Ryan Noss, 23 of Corey, Tennessee. Marine Corps Corporal Hunter Lopez, 22 of Indo, California. Marine Corps Lance Corporal Riley McCullum, 20 of Jackson. Marine Corps Lance Corporal Dylan R. Mercola, 20 of Rancho Cucamonga, California. Marine Corps Lance Corporal Kareem Nakui, 20 of Norco, California. Marine Corps Corporal Dagan William Tyler Page, 23 of Omaha. Marine Corps Sergeant Johnny Rosario, 25 of Lawrence, Massachusetts. Marine Corps Corporal Humberto Sanchez, 22 of Logansport, Indiana. Marine Corps Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz, 20 of Wentzville, Missouri. Navy Hospital Corpsman Max Sovak, 22 of Berlin Heights, Ohio. A lot of servicemen and women and members of their families are asking themselves right now, did my son or daughter die in vain? Some are just flat out saying that they did. When people are feeling that way, the natural response that a decent person is going to have is that they're going to want to say things that comfort them and make them feel better. A lot of people are saying, hey, your loved one or your sacrifice was not in vain because of your intentions, because your heart was in the right place, because you were trying to defend the country that you love or take care of your, fellow brothers and sisters in arms. At the same time, though, it's important to acknowledge how Biden is handling this situation. Him checking his watch 5 times is really about as disrespectful as anybody could ever be for anything. I mean, that really is one of the most disrespectful things I think that I've ever seen in my life. You see, when he's checking his watch, he's telling you he doesn't care about your children. And it doesn't matter if you're left or right. This is another example of poor people's kids fighting a rich person's war. And him being senile is just letting that veil fall so you can see who he really is. And the people that he is in cahoots with, how they are and how little they care about Americans of any political persuasion. I'm not going to tell people that their sacrifice was in vain. I will, however, say that if you're in the military and you're considering being in the military, you should really take into account those who are in charge and those who are at the top. And will you be happy at the end of the day if something happens to you, understanding that, yeah, you might have your reasons for being there. And even if your reasons for being there and for signing up, even if they hold true for you, the people who are in charge, their motivations are not lined up with yours. It should be downright illegal for people, for a president or vice president or a congressman or woman or a governor or really any top government official. It should be illegal for them to have financial connections to weapons manufacturers and private contractors. Like, our politicians should not be profiting off of sending our own people to war. You know, think about Halliburton. And not only should they not be profiting off of war that way, but they had the troops guarding the opium fields. Jamal and Man aren't getting on a plane in Afghanistan and flying that stuff to the hood.
I know that you care deeply about this contradiction, the fact that here you have one of the best fighting forces in the world ever mounted, and in a sense you're watching as this opium is being grown. I know it grinds at your gut. How do you deal with it? What are you doing about it?
Well, frankly, this is a part of their culture. So while it might grind in my gut, it's what they do. We provide them security. We're providing them resources.
The more belligerent they are with how much they hate you and your children and your family, the more they do this, the more people are being woken up. And the closer we are to finally winning. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and please share it. You can help us continue to fight in the war against disinformation by donating at paypal.me/rightleftofcenter. I'm River Wright from Right Left of Center, and if you're watching, you're probably right too.